Okay, we're here with Dave Chun, founder of Kialoa Paddles.
Hi.
And husband to Meg.
Yes, it's my partner.
We always have to mention her. Okay, so how did you get into this whole paddle making career?
It was out of need. I started in 1990, 17 years ago, and I was paddling outrigger. At the time, it was hard for us to get gear. We didn't, there was stuff around, but it isn't like now. And so I saw things, I liked the paddles I was using, but I thought you could improve on them. And I just started building paddles, kind of on a whim. First two I actually built for a wedding present for two friends of ours. And it just kind of started from there.
So you started off with wood paddles, or you started with these carbon ones?
Wood paddles, yeah.
But you guys were the first ones to do carbon?
Other people have built carbon paddles for years. In outrigger, we were probably the first to popularize the outrigger carbon paddles. We're the ones that coined the name hybrid paddle. I mean, that's something we called it. And I guess I was pretty much the first guy to mold a wood paddle. It was I guess that's my claim to fame, I guess.
What do you mean, you mold, instead of shaping, you mold a wood paddle?
Yeah, we were able to shape. The classic way is to actually build a composite wood paddle is built much like a surfboard. Shape the wood core paddle, glass over the top. We used to do that, but it's really labor intense. I really don't like to sand a whole lot, not fiberglass at least. And so what I did was I thought, there's got to be a better way, and I knew they make molded products. And so what I did was I figured out a way to mold the paddle. I had to learn how to build the molds, and build the tools, and then figure out how to fit the cores in it, and just kind of had to come up with my own process, because anybody who knew about it wasn't going to share the information. They were actually other paddle makers, probably like Bob Zavro from ZRE, or Black Bart, who's now passed away. Fantastic paddles, but they're all foam core. I had to fit the rules of outrigger, so I had a little bit different challenge.
And then how did this whole stand-up paddle for you guys come about?
Started out with, I live in Bend, Oregon, and probably a guy everybody knows, all the surfers know, Jerry Lopez lives there too. And because we're both from Hawaii, we just have become friends. About 4 years ago, I guess Laird Hamilton was paddling into waves with a paddle on a surfboard, and so he was breaking the paddle, so he called, I guess he was talking to Jerry about something, and Jerry said, hey, there's this guy named Dave Chun who makes canoe paddles here in Bend, why don't you call him? So Laird called me, and actually my response was, why don't you just get another paddle from the guy you got the last one from? He said, no, they're all breaking. So I said, okay, and I thought it was a fun thing. I didn't know, I just thought, whatever, I'll make a paddle. I like challenges, I like to build things. So that's kind of what it was, and the original paddle had an aluminum shaft. It was a quick, easy thing for me to do. I mean, the idea was because I built spear guns with the same aluminum shaft, and they were really strong. So we did that, and that was the first paddle.
Oh, so
Laird has moved on to work for Surf Tech, which is okay. It's just the way things go. But he kind of got us started on this stand-up thing, and it was just something since we were doing with him. We had the molds. I built all these molds and stuff, so we just started building paddles and putting them in our catalog about 4 years ago.
Oh, you mean so you built him the first paddle, built all the molds, had money in the molds, and then it was like, oh, now we gotta do something with it.
Yeah, I have the luxury of because I build my own tools. It's just my time, and my job really at my shop is to design and to build tools. So we're constantly doing R&D stuff. A lot of the stuff ends up being nothing. It doesn't go anywhere, but it's just something I like to do. So it's kind of like a side job a little bit. I've got my other paddle making job. I make money, and the Laird project was something else. But we had the tools, and so we said, well, might as well offer the paddle and see what happens.
So when did you decide you wanted to increase your line and start really getting into it?
Well, we started to get phone calls. I mean, like, hey, people started calling us and asking us. We hadn't marketed this thing at all. Because I live in Oregon, I come back quite often. I'm here like 6 times a year on Oahu. But my friends tell me what's happening. But I didn't see the whole thing just going. I mean, I was building this paddle over there, and and then it started more and more, and guys started asking us, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? And that's usually how we end up doing something. It's out of need. Someone asks us to build.
So these models that you got over here, these ones,
Yeah.
Cole, the aluminum shaft one is SUS, and then so on.
Yeah.
Which one came out first, then the aluminum shaft one?
No, actually, we had the aluminum shaft, so that was always a given. But what we did was, once we saw that, and people expressed interest in a more sophisticated paddle, and the other thing you have to remember is, when you start off building something, like when I started building it, Laird's telling me something, and I didn't know how. You got a starting point. You just start somewhere, and at the time, the paddle making probably goes along with the board making. Maybe his board wasn't as sophisticated. He didn't turn as well. So we thought he needed a bigger paddle, something he could steer with more. So it's kind of started with a rather big paddle. It was our smallest steering paddle, in fact, in basic shape. But as the guys started to say, hey, this paddle seems kind of big. Can you build something smaller? That's how it started to evolve.
How big was that first paddle?
It was about 9.5 inches wide, about 18 inches tall, and it just was very full. Within, I'm making a rectangle for you, 9.5 inches wide, 18.5 inches tall. Within that rectangle, you can make different shapes, right? This was a good portion of that rectangle. And so, we just kind of learned as our guys went along. The great thing is I had a lot of crossover guys from my outrigger background. I was able to ask them if they product test for me. Mel Poole has been indispensable. Jerry has been very, very helpful. Craig Davidson out of the North Shore. They just jump in and help you, and they'll tell you, if something's right and something's wrong. And it really was trial and error. There's no instructions. You couldn't go into Wikipedia on the internet or whatever and look up what size paddle to make. So we've been kind of floundering around. I mean, if you talk to me next year, I bet you the paddle's going to be different. It's just the way it is. This thing's totally in its infancy, and we're learning as we go along.
So are you finding that the full carbon ones are more popular than aluminum and carbon?
Different application. We rental fleets and stuff. Guys who price point, it cost is an issue. Aluminum is really great. We also have some guys, some of our top guys like Chuck Patterson in Southern California. He's just another huge guy like Laird, and he liked the aluminum for a long time because of the stiffness of the aluminum. He was willing to put up a little extra weight. I mean, the guy's like a 250 pounder, of pure muscle. Yeah. A couple ounces doesn't mean anything to that guy. So he liked it. I did end up making him a one-off shaft out of carbon, stiffen it up a little bit. I did some little other tricks to it, and he's using that now, and he likes it.